Ma Pimpo Ayiti, the Haitian Diaspora Living in Haiti podcast. Today is another week, another day, another episode that we get to bring an incredible guest and just have a conversation about their perspective of engaging in the country in the way that they are inspired to. And we get to listen in, we get to dissect, and we get to be inspired our own selves. Myself, Seejeanty, you know me, I'm here. I'm the crazy nutcase that is trying to convince others to do the same thing and impact the country physically. I am joined by my co-host, the pastor.
Yes, sir. Mark Antoine.
Hey, man. How you doing, Mark?
Doing well. Doing really well. Really excited for the show today.
Man, it's been a crazy week. I think probably our next episode, we need to probably talk about that at some point. It's been a lot of stuff happening in the world at large, and a lot of inspiration from Haiti, you know, in terms of some social change happening. But let's stay focused. I know we do want to go into, but again, just very interesting times, man. So So I have an incredible guest. I guess that I've been gung ho to get on the podcast ever since I saw this incredible documentary on Amazon Prime that really, it spoke to my soul. How? Why? Of course, it involves a Haitian American re-engaging with Haiti, with the island, in a way that we all can relate with. Anyone who's ever decided to push and move back has every single point. It's like she was telling my story. It's like, basically, if I was a director and I saw this, I'm like, oh my goodness, I gotta, turn heaven and earth to try to get this incredible director here. And oh my goodness, the skies of the unparted, and I actually have her here. And so it's going to be incredible. So we're going to talk about, everything that she wants to talk about as it relates to this documentary and herself. My guest is Rachelle Salnave. She is a Haitian American, grew up in Harlem, right? And despite being born in America, never lost that ancestral connection to try to impact and do things in Haiti. Strong Haitian. And listen, if you haven't seen her documentary yet, you need to change that. It's on Amazon Prime. You also can check it out on Vimeo, right? www.vimeo.com/on demand/La Belle. Make sure you have it. If you haven't watched it, just make sure you go and do that. But listen, I can certainly talk her up all episode if so, and if you don't stop me, Mark. so I am gonna.
She deserves it. She deserves it.
So I'm gonna bring her on. Rachelle, how are you?
I'm good. Thank you. I'm good. So, est-ce que nous capables mélanger créole, anglais, French?
J'en voulais, oui. Okay.
On connaît bagarre. When I have an opportunity to at least practice, parce que on connaît créole. Everybody cracks up at my creole. Everybody.
Of course. And we hear the Creole. We also hear that New York in your accent. We hear that as well. There's no denying you are a New Yorker. That's what's up. And of course, we have so much to talk about this episode. But first, I just want to give folks a very quick cliff notes of the documentary before we get into it any further. Again, it's a story where Rachelle is sort of walking through what it means to be Haitian for her, and just that general plot, Plight, and of course talks about her history, where her family comes from, which is great. In fact, I have to do my sort of family history work. I don't really know too much about my family history, which is something I got to change. Mark, how about you? Do you know your sort of history of your family going back past your grandpa? Yeah, you do.
My grandfather is 105 years old.
Oh wow!
And so he's been able to tell us a great deal about him and his grandfather, actually. So
wow!
Yeah.
Okay, yeah. So that's something I got to work on, and my family tree, and really getting the stories down. But Rachelle, she had those stories, and she brought us the viewer, into that. And again, she re-engaged on her island. All the many issues, the socio-economic, environmental, all those issues were laid bare. As I say, political. All those issues were made bare for us to watch and be a part of. And so that's the Cliff Notes version. Rachelle, what do you want to add a little about the documentary that maybe I've missed?
Well, I mean, the film La Belle Vie, this beautiful life, was really just an inspiration that came from, as you mentioned, this Haitian migration story. you know, and being part of the first generation that was born outside of Haiti, you know, and the dichotomies, everything, the complexities, growing up in New York City, all of that was, it was very, very interesting. So, you know, again, I won't go too much into it because I know you have other questions, but just what you said was pretty much it. But again, this was the inspiration, you know, bagay, histoire m gen sou ke mwen. That questions that I had as, you know, a kid, you know, titi moun, we're the first generation outside that are growing up in a country that's not really our country. It's a foreign country. So anyway, this was the inspiration, and in the end, you know, the film really begs where is home, and also really captures my, not yours, but my definition of this La Belle Vie, like a redefinition of what La Belle Vie means to me. You know, this beautiful life, this vision, this fantasy, this not even a fantasy, but this beautiful dream that I feel is so real, that I dream about every night for Haiti. That was really the inspiration behind La Belle Vie.
Wow. So yesterday, Chris, my wife and I watched it.
Okay. Nice.
And so after we watched it, my wife, she went and she grabbed me some cookies and milk, and I was sitting down and I was like, La Belle Vie. And then we started saying that for the entire night. We started using it the entire night. So I think it's gonna catch on really quickly. La Belle Vie.
Good stuff. So that's the synopsis. And again, you guys can Amazon Prime right now. Make sure to stop what you're doing if you're listening. Stay silent. Again, Vimeo.com on demand. La Belle Vie for sure. So so let's really take a step back, and I like to understand really, you know, Rachelle. Who is Rachelle, right? Because you know it is interesting how much your story parallels so many Haitians. You know, so I'd love to ask that question, let you answer it. Who you know, in terms of growing up, where in New York, I think I already mentioned it, but where in New York, and just that sort of experience as it relates to staying ingrained in your culture. Tell us about that.
Well, yeah. So, I mean, I grew up in New York City. I grew up actually uptown. I lived right in the middle of two big global communities. Okay, we're not talking just local neighborhoods. We're talking about two global communities. On the left side of me was Columbia University. That's one of the Ivy League schools. That's where, you know, the major, like,
the top of the top. Yeah, the top of the top. Yeah.
Education, right? That's on the left of me. On the right side of me was Black Harlem, a world-renowned, just like Haiti, a world-renowned community that has always fought for the civil liberties of Black people. Harlem, okay? But Harlem in the late 70s, 80s, 90s, totally different Harlem than what you see today. So just being born there, I embrace, because and you know, factoring going home, having two Haitian parents from also two very different Haitian backgrounds. So all of this was like, wow, there was a lot going on in my psyche at a very young age. And so, you know, yeah, I grew up, I didn't grow up wealthy. Like my mom used to talk about La Belle Vie and how she grew up like a princess. And she mainly, just like me, spent most of her formative years in France. So she kind of is like me in the sense where she was born in Haiti, but she left Haiti at the age of 9 to study in France. And when she would come back, to Haiti for vacation, whatever. It was like a different experience for her. And my dad, on the other hand, my dad, oh Lord, this guy, he's in New York City right now. He's a trip, my pops. But my dad was, he didn't come from a wealthy family, but he came from a very recognized family that was intellectually, like, they changed culture, Salnave family. We have a president. I'm I got a royalty, I got a fourth grandfather was the president of Haiti. He's the one with the long mustache. If you go to the Haitian barbershops and you see the presidents, he's the one with the long mustache. So, I grew up with all of this, and I had to, growing up in New York City, in America, even though I had all this going on, I had to also face, like, who I was, who I was, because I can either go this way, which is, my mom wanted to pull me away from Harlem and the Harlem parks. And she wanted me to, it's not that she wanted, I was forced to play in the Columbia University campus as a playground. Wow, there was a park right down the block. And I always used to be like, Ma, you're acting white, you're acting white. And a lot of times she was, parce que she grew up French. So a lot of times, she connected with that whiteness by trying to speak to me in French. But to her defense, she did take me to the parks in Harlem. And at the time, there was mad crack vials on the floor. And as a kid, I was like, oh, it looked like a game. One of those little games that they used to have back in the 80s.
Heck of a game. Find the crack pipe.
No, but like because they were all colored vials that you would see on the floor. And come on, as I remember, as early as like 5, 6, like I have flashes of those, that was the reality in those times. But as a kid, all I saw was, look, there's a different type of energy down here that I like. There is slides, there's swings, like, I don't get it. And then as I got old, and I say all this kind of metaphorically, that I gravitated to the African American experience here in America, because that's where my soul guided me to, and that's also how I had to live, because at the end of the day, bump if I have curly hair or not. I got brown skin. I got black skin. I got colored skin. So, so it's like, so that was the reality that I grew up in. And I'll tell you, that was a real reality, because then when I would go to Queens to my cousin's house, they were, and still today, gravitated to the Columbia University side, and I say the white side. They have this idea that, that they're not black, that they're Haitian. That always used to mess with me growing up, Yeah.
Honestly, I felt it changed the moment I saw Lil Wayne have a Haitian flag on one of his videos. That's when I felt, I maybe recognized we were officially like part, totally welcomed and being pushed in African American hip hop culture. When I saw Lil Wayne with that flag and it was repping it, I mean, that I don't know, when did you guys feel there was a change? Did you remember any specific thing that perhaps was like on, and then it's like, oh wow, okay, this is how I remember growing up?
For me, I would say once Wyclef came out with Going to November, everything changed. I mean, there were a group of kids, I was included, who always repped Haiti. But then when Wyclef came onto the scene and the Fugees came onto the scene, everybody became much more comfortable with their ethnic background. And for me, I think that was it. How about you, Raquel?
Yeah, I agree. I think Wyclef, that was like, that was kind of like for us, how like oh man, I should know their names, but the runners, when they raise their fists, and that's like an iconic picture.
Yeah,
Yeah,
Olympics, yeah, Olympians, yeah.
Yeah, what Wyclef did at the Grammys, that was like that iconic picture for, I think, the crossroad. I think the crossroad, the turn. But for me personally, mine came a lot earlier. Why? Because Brooklyn Haitians had a different. I think they had a different story than Haitians uptown. I think, and but I can't really speak on it too much because I was actually one of those people who, when I was in junior high school, I would have a Dominican aunt. And I'll be like, yeah, I'm Dominican. Yeah, I'm Dominican. I'm Dominican. You know what I mean? Like, so, but that kind of foolishness actually was not long lived, because living in Harlem, I started, and remember, we were born in the hip hop generation. When hip hop came, hip hop kind of unified us.
Yeah.
In a very effective way, for me at least. You know, I can only speak on my personal experience. You know, while they don't know Haiti, and they're second generation, because pas parler créole avec yo, pas vraiment, you know, but the work that I do, they know and they're proud to be Haitian. And I love that, but they have a different, they don't really know. Yeah, they don't know our story, and our story is just as important as our parents' story when they had to, you know, deal with, you know, the BS in Haiti and leave, and you know, every generation's story is very important. It's a humanity story, actually.
So let me ask. So now, you know, that's your childhood there and that dynamic. But then as you grew up, you know, tell us about, how did you sort of start getting into filmmaking? Was it something that you always had and you always just enjoyed telling stories? Was it just something during college, somebody just plopped a camera in your hand? You know, how did you sort of transition and get into that?
Well, I mean, the dope thing about growing up in New York City in the 80s is they had the best television shows. And all of the television shows I liked all had leading Black, beautiful people, you know, Miami Vice, Facts of Life. Even the cartoons were cool, you know? and so so I always was like, I want to do that. And hearing like the stories, that La Belle Vie story, you know, like hearing those stories, how my grandmother used to live her life in Haiti. I was like, man, those should be films, you know, those should be. And then my mom was like a movie buff too, because that was like the most affordable thing that we, well, there was a lot of actually affordable and free things. I was always exposed to culture in New York City, which, you know, again, is what has been the inspiration for me to want to do film and be in entertainment at a very young age. And I was happy that I knew that young. So I would always like go to art schools, or, you know, if I went to high school that was at art, I would always, you know, take acting classes or dance classes. I wanted to be in Fame, that television show, you know. So as I, you know, figured out what I wanted to do at a very young age, and combine that with growing up in hip hop, growing up, you know, now becoming socially aware of myself and my identity, I was like, yo, I graduated out of college, and I was like, I'm gonna major in film. And at the time when I was in New York at Hunter College, I was like, I was gonna minor in theater, because I really wanted to do the acting first. I really wanted to act and dance, you know, and be in one of like those musicals and shit.
You wanted to be a fly girl.
Yeah. I was the original fly girl. I was always in the clubs dancing and, or watching them dance, and just being like, man, this is a great time. And it was, in a lot of respects for the culture, it was a dope time. So I wanted to be a part of that. So I majored in film, and I stuck with it. I stuck with it.
Let me ask you something in there, Rachelle. Just a bit of a rewind, not much. Um, I know there's a lot of Haitians who grew up in Brooklyn, a lot of Haitians who grew up in Queens. But I never really heard of a lot of Haitians growing up in Manhattan and in Harlem. So where you grew up, were there other Haitian families? Was there much of a Haitian community in Harlem, or did you have to go to Queens and Brooklyn to get that?
Yeah, no, there was a community actually on my block alone. There was one, two, three. There was three other families. One of them, one out of the three, like they were my cousins. Like they were like my blood cousins, but they weren't. Like they were my sisters. They're my sisters and brothers. We grew up together.
Yeah,
Because all of them worked for Columbia University. That was the thing in New York City. That's the reason why Haitians love New York, because you get work. You might
right.
get shitty work, but if you work like two jobs, you get a house, you
Yeah,
get this, you get
yeah,
that, you get to move to Long Island, you can buy, you know what I mean? Like it's a
right.
hustle. And so, yeah, there was a small Haitian community. There was actually a restaurant. There was a couple of, funny barbershops.
Mm-hmm,
You know
mm-hmm.
what I mean? And yeah, but you're right. It wasn't big like most, like my family, like my mom's, she wouldn't hang out with the Haitians that we were right next to. She hung out with her family in Queens, and we didn't have any family in Brooklyn, actually. We didn't have any family in Brooklyn. It was only Queens.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, there was a lot of complexities growing up, even within living in New York, dealing with Haitians, because Brooklyn was always like, that's where the black
The
Haitians,
the the blackies, yeah,
yeah, like
the
the ones
Africans.
that, yeah, like the ones that we would never associate with it in Haiti.
So,
Brooklyn.
so there's a dynamic in the film. And I don't know if I'm going too fast, but as you mentioned that, Rachelle, growing up in Harlem, you grew up in hip hop era. You grew up really connecting to the black struggle, black pride. But you have parents who grew up otherwise. You have parents who grew up in France. One of your mom, mulattoes, and more of the bourgeois kind of side. How did you reconcile those two? Because even me, my parents are not mulatto. My parents didn't, grow up abroad. They grew up in Haiti, poor, but they were very anti African American, very anti black, very pro Haitian, but anti African American. Um, how did you reconcile, having that side of your background, your family background and history, which is your family history, and you should love and you should be embraced, as well as having this black power struggle side that you had to embrace as well.
Well, um, I did what a lot of kids do. I didn't listen, I didn't listen, and I had my own thoughts, and I wanted to experience my own experience, which I did. And,
Mhm.
and, but always trying to have respect, because at the end of the day, they're my parents. They're not, and my parents are not typical. They weren't the typical Haitian parents to like,
Mhm.
they were really like very strange out of space Haitians, really.
Mhm.
Like they just different type of folks. as you could kind of see with my dad, you know, my dad is very charismatic, you know, but has a lot of issues with race, class himself. You know, he does, and those types of privileges, like, we don't think that we have certain privileges, you know, when we're constantly like talking about this whole race, class, colorism, all of that, all these layers, you know. But how I reconciled with it was really just trying to know myself, know who I am, Rachelle, and understand that, okay, my parents grew up the way they grew up. Especially, I could really talk about my mom, because my dad, economically, he did not have the same advantages as my mother, which to me also contributes to a little bit of his, the way he thinks is very different. But my mom, she did grow up in a white country, France. And France is they have the way they go about racism and all that is very different than here. You know, I mean, everywhere has their issues with this, right? But for me, like, you know, as a kid, yeah, I was like, okay, my mom is acting white. But then even as doing these projects, I understand that she's just a part of her environment that she grew up in. And she had to learn, unfortunately, the hard way too. At the end of the day, you know, who are you? Who are you, Spatizia? Not the idea that, okay, you were born in Haiti, but you have this connection to France. You know, you were, because you know, reconciling means that you may not have to agree with how the person thinks or whatever, but because there's like the love is there, you know, and you want to also heal, because a lot of it is so hurtful and so confusing as a kid. But we can't get there until we unlayer and really have some hard conversations with us. Nous-mêmes qui haïtiens, nous-mêmes qui, okay, black American, nous-mêmes qui africain. Africa is at the core of our genius, our creativity, and our triumph, but it's also at the core of our pain. Because nobody wants to ask Africa, yo, what's up? You know what I mean? Like, where you at? Where's your voices at? You know, are you, like, where you guys at? Because we have to go again. My party loin, and you guys, I was surprised Seejeanty is not cutting me off.
No, we believe in allowing you to freely express your entire idea, so it's all good. It's all good, Rachelle. So I do want to ask though, now from filmmaking perspective, right? When you film school, cool, and then I know one of your early projects, Mart 125. I watched it, another documentary that was very impactful because it talked about Harlem, right? It talked about the specific experience of this one location that functions as a sort of marchand area where a lot of street vendors were able to move their products and be inside and be more formalized. Unfortunately, it wasn't necessarily well supported. And the story of Mart 125 really paralleled the story of Harlem, right? Where you have a lot of, entrepreneurial internal, just folks trying, but then the lack of support from ultimately the state really impeded the growth and progress. But then at the same time, you had these sort of external folks coming in, but they were being supported. But again, it's a very parallel story, and I certainly understand why you chose it. And so that certainly seemed to be one of your early projects, and I certainly see the DNA of the way you put that together and how it related to how things flowed in La Belle Vie. What did you like the most about creating Mart 125, and what did you really take out of that experience to leverage? Because I think from asking that question, I can get a sense, we can get a sense of really your style and what you like most about that process.
What I like most about making Mart 125, well, it was a big journey. It was a big project. Took me 10 years, well, 9 years actually, 9 years to make the film.
Mm-hmm.
And mainly because I had stopped for a little bit. You know, I had my kid, I started having my family, and I was working for a major record company actually at the time, Columbia Records, Sony Music, big, you know, but I was a little guy, you know, sitting in the front. But it was, you know, I was young, I was having a family, and I had to just kind of put a pause on it. And I was like kind of getting tired of it because I was like, man, this is hard to do this with like very little resources. And then like, you know, family and friends that I was using as crew was like dropping out. It was like, this thing is never going to end, you know? But the biggest learning lesson and what I like most about doing the project is I didn't give up. I didn't give up. I just stuck with it. And yeah, I might have taken a break. And maybe if I didn't take a break, I would have finished faster. But when you do nonfiction work, time actually is a good thing because you're dealing with reality. You're dealing with, this is no acting. You know, I wasn't getting actors. Like the story really unfolded over time. And I'm glad that I made the decision to finish it despite the disparities I had as an independent Black filmmaker with no money, but it was my community, you know, and I documented it, and I'm very proud of it. And actually, look where we at today. Look at Harlem today. Look at the Mart. The Mart is still not open. They could have kept that market open for entrepreneurs until they figure out what the fuck they want to do, but it's still there, which on one hand is great hope for the community if they maybe exploit some of this opportunity while people are awakened and say, yo, this is a need on our community too. You know, actually, this is a hard need on the community. Need meaning gentrification. Gentrification is my civil rights movement. It's my, as a person living here in these states. It's the racism, and it's that same fascist energy. But it's hard when you have, you know, people don't feel the same way. And I get that too. Even though it bothers me, I get it too, because at the end of the day, when you've been living in extreme poverty, cracked neighborhoods that have like completely annihilated your community, then this AIDS thing, right? Then, all of these things that just pressing on Harlem, pressing. You know, brothers can't find work, so they do bad work just to feed their families, and they getting locked up for like their whole lives. You know, some of them only just, you know, selling weed, and they getting life.
Yeah,
You
for
know,
sure.
and it's like, and that's the, and so you know, again, just to come full circle to answer your question, that is like what I love most about the project is just seeing like the fruits of completion.
One thing I certainly enjoyed, right, was just the overtime chronologicalness of it, right? That you saw from because it took you 9 years, but but yet you really felt we were walking through time and through a progression. And that's what I felt with La Belle Vie as well, that we were in progression. We were watching, particularly early on when Mart came on, but then as time went on, some of the feelings that not enough was being done, right? So you can really, that's what I enjoy most so far of the documentaries I've seen, is that you know, they take a while, but when you put it together in a way that really feels like you're watching a story over. Yeah, it's an hour, but just because you're able to go through so much time, you're able to really get a full sense of what's going on in the development of it, which I love. And particularly since, you know, I am somewhat of a storyteller as well with Seejeanty Media, though I'm certainly trying to get better. I'm not anywhere at your level, Rachelle. See, but certainly one thing that I've enjoyed so much about creating media has been the opportunity to expose and ultimately storycraft, which is something I've appreciated from watching your content. One thing I'm curious about now, UK film school, you got one documentary on your belt. Now you're like, okay, then you always had this. I think, was this story of La Belle Vie being created in parallel, and then when it came time to actually go to Haiti, you know, talk to us about that process. Like, how did you connect with, I guess, friends or family and say, hey, I'm shooting, and so how did you sort of navigate Haiti when it came time to start filming on island? Because I can tell you, even myself, you know, I have a lot of equipment, and I always, you know, feel a little certain way, especially when I'm going anywhere that I don't necessarily know with my equipment. So I don't know, that whole entire feeling when you're on the island shooting, how did you go about it? How did you network? What was the strategy of getting that sort of access that you got? Walk us through the more technical aspect of your story.
Okay. So yeah, the transition from one big project to another big project, right? Because I, you know, again, patting myself because I created this feature film, which again, nonfiction work it's very different than fictional work, because nonfiction, while it's always nice to have a nice big crew, you don't necessarily need it, especially if you're doing guerrilla style stuff that like I've been doing, which is actually going to end. You know what I mean? Like each project I learn a lot more. You know, I put myself through school. But yeah, so Mart had finished. I had actually got laid off from Sony. I was living in Atlanta at the time. And when I was living in Atlanta, yeah, the earthquake hit. And I needed to be around my community. Also, I had let me just back up a little bit. When I had finished Mart 125 and I saw like, wow, like my dreams are coming true. Like I'm able to finish this project. It's opening doors for me. Like, yo, you know, maybe I can be a Spike Lee, you know? I like, you know, like, I was like, yeah, I can do this. I want to do it again. And I had written a story, a script actually, when I was in college. And I was like, okay, like, I got to do something on Haiti now. I got to do something on Haiti. I got to do something on like class. And I got to like find out what all this craziness is about, right? And so, yeah, so as I was touring with my film, Mart 125, I would like just sit down and just start writing like a thesis meaning like just a theme of what do I want to say, and sort of and sticking to that. And then of course, you know, being in film school, taking like screenwriting classes, thinking of like, okay, what's act 1, act 2, act 3, where's the climax, blah, blah, blah. Using the same sort of things that I learned with fictional work and applying it to nonfiction. And so I got laid off. But when I got laid off, I took that severance package. I I took the money. I probably should have got a house in Atlanta, but I didn't. I took it and I just invested it back into Mart 125 as much as I could. And then also going to school, I enlisted myself in a master's program at the University of Miami. And I told them straight off the gate, I was like, yo, I already got the project that I'm going to do. And there was a little bit of conflict there because they're like, well, we want applicants to come in with fresh ideas and think about their thesis at the end. I was like, nah, yo. I was like, I'm doing something on Haiti. And they were like, come on, and I was like, let's come in here. And they're my biggest supporters. So so now I'm in La Belle Vie pre-stages, and I used the idea. I was part of this master's program when I went to Haiti, just because it was kind of like game too, because I was like, I don't want these people to think I got a lot of money, but then I don't want, I want them to think it's education. And it is education, but at the same time, this is my professional project. This is my second feature film. And so in talking to people, it was like, that was sort of the angle. In talking to people in Haiti, that was the angle that I gave them. But at the same time, it was all about building relationships too, understanding that this is important, And so everybody who participated that wasn't family, they were cool. They were cool with, the little the little game I was spitting. It's like, oh, I'm a master. But my family, this was somewhat of a, I don't want to say easy process, but it was much more easier process than Mart 125 because your family knows you. And when you're doing nonfiction work, when you're capturing real lives and real people, those relationships are very important because they just blossom on camera. They know you, they trust you, they trust your professionalism as well. And so I was fortunate that the main people in my film were my family, and the others who were not, they were okay with it, such as Shala and Joel. Shala and Joel, when I met them through my aunt, who has a hotel right down in Shanmas. They was kids on the street, they were kids without parents, and
Yeah, I remember those
so
two guys. Yeah, it was when you went to visit their home, the first home, it broke my heart, man. It was just like, wow, the tents that they were living in. Yeah, I remember those two now, and then towards the end when they, had a better improvement. But I'm curious today, right now, as we talk, how are they doing?
well, I used to gauge Haiti based off of when they would call me. Because, when they call me, they need financial assistance. That was also kind of mind-blowing for me as well, because I was like, man, I don't want to have this type of transactional relationship with them. But I understand their conditions. I get it. And, of course, we did all that we could do, all that I could possibly do, because again, they look at me like I'm privileged, which, yeah, I have some advantages for sure. I have more advantages than them. But at the same time, I got 2 kids and a dog. I'm here. I'm by myself.
Not
I'm
to
an
mention rent and
that
bills.
dog chow ain't cheap.
Yeah. What? And I'm about a single mom on an independent documentary filmmaker, no salary type thing,
Yeah.
So it was kind of it's been hard, but I've been trying to reach out really to Shala, because Shala's the main person I connect with, I keep in touch with. He's the leader. He has amazing relationships with his community. You know, people really look up to Shala, and he just had a baby. The last time I spoke to him was before COVID, I think around February, and he just had a baby. And myself and my partner were kind of like annoyed, to be honest, because we're like, man, he don't need to have, he don't need to have kids. Like, he doesn't need to have another kid, actually, because he has a son already. And but at the same time, you know, what can you say? It's the reality of poverty. It's the reality of the way, the harsh realities that like 80% of the people live in those types of conditions. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know the facts, I don't know the stats, but
but it's bad.
I mean, come on, we know that Shala's story is just, Shala and Joel's story is just like a real picture of, man, like, how do we do this? Like, how do we make it work? And then, of course, you know, coming from the quote unquote diaspora eyes, us being like, coming from the States wanting to play hero all the time. And some of us are, you know, some of us are. And when I say that, I mean that with all due respect, like people like yourself who move back, who have, you know, several opportunities. Even if you're feeding one family, what's the effects of that? You know,
that's something I certainly grapple with a lot. You know, the ultimate effect of one person, and that's one thing. You know, when it comes to the micro and macro, right? Certainly the micro, I can cite so many positive examples and stories of ways we're impacting individuals and families, but then certainly at the macro level, like how is it changing anything? And that's certainly difficult. When it comes to the story of the story craft, right? You know, certainly again, I enjoyed the span of time. So I'm thinking that you were constantly coming in and out the country. Right. So that's number one. And so that sort of had some challenges, but your challenges in general, what was maybe looking back, right? Talking about the process, technically, what was like the challenge for you looking back? You're like, man, I don't know. I figured it out. But like, what was the challenge looking back that you're glad you figured out that, you know, allowed you to, you know, you had to overcome to produce this?
Well, there was no problems going in and out the country. There was no problems. We were cool. I mean, definitely having Shala with us when we were going in the hood and his community. Yeah, like for sure. You know what I mean? Like, I'm not stupid. Like, you know, I'm not stupid. I'm not going to just roll up to people's communities like that and just have a camera or whatever. I mean, I wish I could. And but you know, those things take time, you know, as like someone who's been doing this and who's been documenting people, like those it's the relationships are crucial for documentary filmmaking. But I would say the real challenge was being in front of the camera, because this was my story. And so it was my story. I had to direct it. Then I was dealing with my partner, who's not really, like, at the time was like, he was a photographer, but this was like his first cinematography project, you know, and Jean Marcelin, you know, and I guess the greatest thing is that, you know, he's my man. So, you know, like, it was great that, you know, it was great that there were times it was like, okay, we could share a room together, you know, we can eat together off the same plate. Like, we were just rocking like that because we were, you know, we're together, you know, that's my king, that's my partners. But sometimes it's like, yo, get the shot right, get the shot right, do it this way, yo, you know. And it was like, that was like hard sometimes, like to just direct first of all, you're directing someone to get what you have in your mind, because you don't have it written out and you don't have it drawn out. So, you know, and that comes with experience too. That comes with having a bigger crew, you know, like, yeah, we probably could have had like 2 more people with us, but we did it. Actually, we used Shala, like Shala did some of our sound. We used his boy Reggie. Sorry, not his boy, my partner's cousin Reggie, who actually had come to Haiti when he was a kid, but he always wanted the opportunity to return on as an adult and like just do like dope things in Haiti, you know, vacation. And so he was like, yo, if I come with you guys, you know, I'll help out. So he did our sound one trip. So yeah, some of the challenges are the resources. You know, it's always nice to have additional resources so that the director, you know, the person doing it can just totally focus on the subject or the area. You know, we were also trying our best to get the beautiful shots of Haiti and stuff, but the film kind of took a turn. You know, the film took a turn from that because that was the original idea.
I know certainly towards the end it was very emotional because again you certainly had your mom come back to the country and re-engage. So from a perspective of like my mom, she's told me I could buy her a plane ticket. She's not coming to Haiti. she's done. Unlike my dad is he's on a different boat. In fact, it's just situations have not allowed him to engage as much as he would like. In fact, he loves the fact that I'm in Haiti now and he wants to use me as a bridge to connect himself. But my mom, no way. And so it hit me because I put my situation where imagining my mom coming back and then saying, you know what, Haiti isn't so bad. Actually, I do like Haiti, and so, my question now is, I guess, really has to do with, a budding filmmaker. I'm not going to call myself a filmmaker. I'm a YouTuber. So we just do what we do. And so it's a different sphere of science in my book. But, for someone looking to document visually, using cinematography and ultimately whatever medium it ends up, if it does end up on YouTube, if it ends up on, Amazon Prime or Netflix, what advice would you give someone, a Haitian American listening to this right now, who similarly wants to share culturally their story? What advice or two would you partake, given your experience thus far doing that?
Well, it would just be to do it.
Mm-hmm.
Everybody has a camera now. Start recording your 105-year-old grandfather. Get every story, even if it's audio. Always have good audio though. Audio is key because it can kind of make up for visuals that aren't that great. But audio, you can't make up for bad audio. So that's on the technical side. But yes, tell your story. If it's a documentary, nonfiction stuff, I mean, look, it depends how you want it. I mean, if you want something beautifully shot, well made, and your aspirations are to go to Netflix, then you may want to like spend a little time learning and collaborating with someone who knows, like collaborating with an experienced documentary filmmaker to tell your story. I mean, that's a beautiful option too, to actually have people say, you know what, I want to make this story about my family, but I'm going to collaborate with, a Haitian filmmaker or whatever, just an experienced filmmaker that will collaborate to tell my story. So that's what I would advise.
And so, since you toss it out, by the way, my media company in Haiti would love to collaborate with a documentarian like yourself. So it's on the record. I'm throwing out there. Next time your next big project, you let us know. So we would love to help.
Right.
But on that same vein too, Rachelle, what's next? Like, are you looking for another documentary, or do you want to you don't have to give me the details now, but like, are you also going to continue to make documentaries, or maybe are you going to try to at some point try your hand in something else, like a different genre? Like, where do you see yourself going from just overall career perspective? Do you want to do another big project that ends up on one of these streamers, or where are you going? Like, where do you see yourself in another 10 years as a filmmaker?
Well, yeah, continuing to do what I'm doing. I'm living the dream. I'm working on very dope projects. I've actually, when La Belle Vie was done in 2014, I started a film series called Ayiti Images. And then
Mhm.
later, a few years later, I started a series called Black Lounge Films. So it's a film series that gives Haitian and Black filmmakers around the world like a platform to show their films here in Miami. And so yeah, to be just like, I love what Ava DuVernay is doing. She's able to do docs. Yeah, I want to do narrative. Like, kidding me? So I want to do narratives and blow them out the water,
Mhm.
because Haitians, and stick with the Haitian narrative. Haitian stories are beautiful.
Mhm.
Haitian storytelling is yet to be really told to its fullest. Although
Mm,
I don't,
yeah.
maybe I shouldn't say it. I shouldn't say that, because there's a lot of Haitian movies out there, but to get it to the next level of visually, story, the acting, like to be able to hit all of the aesthetics of filmmaking, uh, we need that. So yeah, I want to be part of that in the next 10 years,
Okay,
you
okay.
know?
And just to highlight what you just said there, IT Images, and then you also have the Black Lounge, the
Films, yeah.
films, exactly, and those are all searchable on Google, and you can certainly find that content. But remember, Amazon Prime, you can find La Belle Vie, and of course Vimo on demand, La Belle Vie film, right? So I think that's, in terms of questions and trying to understand the technical background aspect, I'm satisfied. I know when it comes to the story, I want folks to make sure to go out and watch it, right? Because I could ask a lot more of these processual questions, in terms of how your experience and how this and that, like I usually ask, but the thing is, Rachelle has it on film. So just go watch it, guys, and you'll see her perspective, as she has put it together, so well done, and so narratively clear, right? I don't know, Mark, did you have anything else you kind of wanted to ask about, her process in Haiti and filmmaking, or you good?
No, on the filmmaking part, no, not really. Unfortunately, we won't have enough time to get into some of the other questions, which we can talk about another time. Rachelle, I saw some things in there about the election with Mate Lee. When I was watching, I was like, oh, I gotta ask, we gotta talk. But we'll have time at a later date to delve into some of that. What I've been wondering is, how has the reception been from the Haitian community of the film?
Well, well, okay. So the film was finished in 2014. We didn't get out into like the festivals and all of that until 2016. And we've been smashing it. Like, Haitians around the diaspora have been like, oh man, like this is my story. This is what happened to me. Yeah, I can relate to that. I can relate to that. Now, when we went to Haiti, and we showed it twice in Haiti, the first time was great because it was in an educational setting, so to speak. It was at this place called Focal that really uses,
Yeah, yeah, well
art,
known.
yeah, and culture to help push democracy. And so there was just like a whole mélange de monde, like a whole mix, and it was dope. But it was just that one time. When we showed it the second time, we showed it outdoors in Jacmel, and people were like, I heard them saying comments, especially when Martin's scene came on.
Right, and that's what I
Yeah,
wanted to get at. I know
yeah,
that's gonna
like
cause some issues.
when
Strong
Martin's scene,
feelings.
yes, when Martin's scene came on, when some other, I think it was my great aunt who was talking about La Belle Vie, they were like, they were like, whatever. They was like, whatever. I was like, okay. And then we invited Shala to, like, speak on behalf of the film. They were like kind of
Not
giving
having
him
it.
the, like, yo, we don't want those people here.
Wow.
Send them back to Port-au-Prince. Send them back
Interesting.
to Charlotte.
So you really saw like the complexity of the political social as people were watching it and reacting to it. Very interesting.
But
Very interesting.
actually, I forgot. No, we showed it a third time at a school it was an all girls school, and that was fantastic. I mean, again, I think it has to do with
The environment.
the setting, because
Mhm.
that was like they were really deep and asking some really honest questions about the film, and really appreciated my story and stuff. So yeah, it's been, I would say, overall, like the reaction from the Haitian diaspora, this is like really like a Haitian diaspora story.
Yeah, it is.
And I've come to terms with that, because at first I was like, man, I want Haitians in Haiti to understand it. And in time, because I work a lot I have my educational partners at FIU, and we've been using that film to show in high schools like every year. Every year I'll go to like North Miami High School, I'll go to some schools in Broward, and I'll show not only La Belle Vie, but I'll show other Haitian films. And yeah, it's been a good, and because the important thing also about showing it here is that it's not just a Haitian story. I got Cubans coming to me. I
It's a
got,
diaspora story.
Yeah, true. Yeah. Mhm.
it runs deep. Even somebody from Romania was like, oh my God, this is my story too.
Yeah.
Yeah, so
Listen, Michelle, that's why I wanted you on here, because again, I identified with it right away, and I'm so honored that I had the chance to have you on the program. Certainly want to have you back, because we got so many other questions we wanted to ask, but time is kind of truncating us a little bit, and hopefully we can do it in Haiti, and we can do it, in the way I really want this podcast to be. It's going to be much more in person, in the sort of with us recording our conversation and then getting it out afterwards. But nonetheless, I learned tremendous about you, about your process, about what it took, because a lot of folks overnight will say, oh, this person, oh, Amazon, oh wow, goodness, but they don't see that this is something you've been working your whole life at, and just now getting the exposure that you deserve, right, across the world. And certainly we're rooting for you. I'm rooting for you. At first I was considering you the next Issa Rae, but Issa Rae does more of these shows, so I guess you're the next Ava DuVernay. Ava DuVernay is what I'll start saying when I talk about you now. No?
No being anybody else but me.
Okay, gotcha. All right, you're the next Rachelle Salnave.
Yeah. Yeah.
That reminds me of a very old school viral video, and they walk up to a girl, and hey, who you look like, and she goes, Sharisha, and she goes, who's Sharisha? Me.
Exactly. Yeah.
Right. So
no,
so good.
but no, I thank you as well. I appreciate the intentions of y'all setting up this, because c'est très important, parce que c'est nous-mêmes meaning like the people who live outside of Haiti, the people who live inside of Haiti. We need each other. Yep. We are a marriage that could never end, never end. We are connected. Our energies need each other, and we need Haiti just as Haiti needs us. And so I appreciate the efforts of you guys putting this platform so it can maybe spark ideas of people, really considering investing in Haiti by going, and then the same on the Haiti side, that Haiti really puts its, what is it, the term? Just stays committed to what they say during election times when they want, the Haitian diaspora. Follow through. Follow through. Like, let us know that we have a home in Haiti because you have a home here. Like, it's Haitians on the front line here that are fighting for Haitians.
Yeah, because they say the right things. When you listen to them on campaign, they say everything. So they know what they should be doing economically in the country, domestically, to boost. And then they always, Haitian diaspora need to be involved, and but then when they get in office, absolutely opposite happens.
Yeah. And so, and there just needs to be this types of platforms more. So thank you so much. Today's Sunday. Today's Saturday. Yeah. Today's Saturday, Samedi. Enjoy your Saturday. Thank you so much.
Mark,
thank you so much, Rachelle. Definitely, really, really blessed to have you on. Great to learn more about you and your background, and hopefully, we can link up and continue to build this community. I'll be praying for you, and I'll be sharing La Belle Vie. So keep up the great work. Thank you, sis.
All right, and that's the end of the podcast. Mapimpo Ayiti, the Haitian Diaspora Living in Haiti podcast. We have fantastic guests who always come in and give their perspectives, and with the idea of, again, how can we also impact in a way similar they are. And Rachelle certainly was very fantastic in imparting that information. Remember, we're on every medium: Spotify, Apple Podcasts. We're even on Facebook and YouTube. You find it on the Seejeanty channel because we want to make sure there's no excuses. These stories need to get out, and you can get it in any consumable way that you consume your media. It's available to you. Make sure when you're watching it, give us that thumbs up, give us that 5 stars, leave a comment, give us your perspective, give us your thought. It all adds to helping that algorithm push that story out, because that's what we need. We need to get these stories out within our community, and especially outside, to understand there's more to Haiti, there's more to Haitians than what you see on CNN and Fox. It's a lot more to it, a lot more complexity. And I'm so blessed the fact that I'm able to do this. And if you got this far, especially, listen, you're the real MVP. Until we're back at it again, we'll be back at it again. Peace.